I got two microphones. So I think that the best thing, maybe just whoever's speaking, come stand up here in the middle and just pass the microphone to the next person. These guys know the drill. They're going to go quick and let us know who you are and your main takeaways. Thank you.
It's bright down here. Can you hear me? I'm Stephanie Hardiman from Teton Teams Development, and I got to spend time today with the Sandhill Cranes. And we organized our reflection around connect, collaborate, and thrive. Around connecting, the Cranes discussed the importance of connecting or reconnecting with those around us. We also fostered some budding friendships based on some common interests. Around collaboration, we are really thinking about elevating the voices of others, and Howard's quote about those who sweep the room get to choose the broom really resonated with us, and thinking about people in our organizations and how do we really listen to the people who are experts in their areas. Many of us are excited to go back and to collaborate with others using some of the new tools like the disruptive design method. And in terms of thriving, the micro shifts we're thinking about are, some of us are thinking about leadership retreats that we have coming up and maybe changing how we approach those based on the work of the last 2 days. Some of us are thinking about the wonderful young people we had in the room today and how we might be better mentors for them, and also all the things we can learn from them. And some of us are thinking about how Howard said we really have to serve each other before we serve others, and how sometimes in our teams we are really good at thinking about clients or students, but maybe not always really speaking and listening to each other in the ways that we should be. And lastly, we're all thinking about how to apply the systems mapping process we learned to some of the complex problems in our lives and organizations. Thanks.
Hi there. My name is Beth Stromberg, and I work at St. John's Health in the Human Resources Department here in Jackson. And I had the privilege of working with the river otters, up top, river otters. And you know, our group was really interesting and diverse in just kind of our backgrounds and our interests. We had parents, we had a couple of different educators, we had one of the folks from the reservation, and we ended up aligning on just what can we give to our communities, and particularly the young people in our communities, as we all kind of move forward with the pace of change and technology and so forth, and aligning around just grounding in our values and how values can be an identity for a community, particularly for young people, but really for all of us. And whenever, what can we do to highlight that and reflect those values, to promote those values, to share stories of the folks that are contributing and exemplifying the values in our communities that become our identity, and also just expressing gratitude and returning to that.
Hello, I'm Casey, and I had the pleasure of being with the trumpeter swans who, if you're curious about their ecological role in our ecosystem, they are nutrient dispersers, and they also protect and support wetland ecosystems by nutrient dispersal, by making food available for other fowl that come behind them. And I think that's pretty appropriate for our group. Is to create more opportunities for ourselves to know each other better, to have a thriving community, and to embrace connection. And I wanted to read a few of the things that people said when I asked them what the takeaways were. Developing leaders who serve others and to show that's good business. Defining your own integrity. expanding your zone of comfort by identifying avenues of opportunity through willingness, grace, and humility, to push through challenges and adapt, to have persistence, authenticity, adaptability, and divergent thinking, to have an open mind, and to embrace the pause. And there are a lot that I would say that to summarize the actions that we're going forward with, a lot of it had to do with knowing yourself, giving voice to the actions, and reducing your assumptions about others. So that is what we came to conclude.
Hi there, I am Kristen Fox. I am the Executive Director of Momentum. My group were the Badgers, and while we didn't spend a whole lot of time exploring what it means to be a Badger, we did come up with some great takeaways. We really honed in on the message of resiliency, and we like the idea of developing a faith file and reflecting back on times that were hard for us. And the tendency when you come out of hard times is to sort of forget about it, right? Like, why would you dwell on the hard times? But it is really important to remember that you came through that successfully. We talked about finding our joy, balance, purpose, focusing on small steps. And I sort of liked how that piece tied into allowing you to be of service to others. Once you are strong within yourself and grounded, you can really bring your best self to the world. We also talked about the importance of critical thinking and questioning our motives and seeking out education. And in terms of some next steps, I love this idea too of bringing systems thinking to high school kids or even younger kids. Like, why not bring this model to them and start, going through that process together? So, yeah, and then we also just asked the question of like, how can we be okay with some of the lies that are out there? That was a big thing to ponder. So, yeah, and we've got our follow-up set, and the last thing that I'll share is that, as you're going through some of these tough challenges in your life, it's important to find support in the group, because you may just say it's too hard and stop there, but the group can really help you keep going. And so I think that's what we're hoping to do with ours. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jared Schoening. I spent the day with the Black Bear group, which, looking around, I think all of them have hibernated for the weekend here. They're really moving into that Friday mode. But one of the things that really bubbled up was this idea that came up kind of throughout all the conversations around like this idea of like no rules and disrupting and having that being that disruptive point of view. Kind of with Layla through the idea of the circular economy and disrupting certain pieces to improve it. Or maybe with Howard and the Frappuccino and like just not following the rules. And then I'd say Dr. Ming kind of just her, like she's kind of not following the rules, but in the best way possible. That really kind of resonated and stuck with the group of how can they do that in their lives as well. And from that is like kind of challenging that status quo, but with the disruptive confirming and reinforcing questions, not really breaking it down and being actually disruptive in a negative way. And all of that through the lens of that idea of servant leadership. How do we serve our teams and ourselves? Sean talked really about kind of serving yourself in order to serve the teams, and it all kind of tied together. So that idea of servant leadership and how can the team, it wasn't necessarily a new concept, but it was like an increased level of motivation and focus on that idea. Actually, there is a bear here. I'm sorry. Not everybody hibernated. And then in terms of applying that, like taking that focus to their everyday lives, as well as like very specific things like Howard's idea of the idea board in his office, like one of the team members, like I'm doing that in a way appropriate for my organization. So, thanks.
Hi, I'm Chris Sheen. I'm a small business owner here in Jackson and sit on Kristen's board for Momentum and a few other steering committees. My group is the Raccoons. I say is because hopefully we will continue to meet. A couple of things we did I think our group meshed really well even from the beginning on working on that great exercise. We talked a lot about our purpose in life and how that if the purpose is more internal versus external, and how we live our life. Talked a lot about servant leadership. I kind of had a big question on that and not quite understanding and realizing that that's how I lead. I would like to put one of my raccoons on the spot. When I asked for kind of a wrap up, Chris really said some things very profound, and I would really like it if you could say it better than me trying to paraphrase your. Yes, please.
So one of the greatest things that I learned about here wasn't necessarily from the speakers, but from learning about all the perspectives from you guys. I've met with quite a few of you over the course of these last 2 days. And for me, this has actually been my very first social outing that I've ever really done without a comfort person with me. So it's been really, really far out of my comfort zone, to say the least. Blanking here, but honestly, being able to hear the perspective of my fellow Wyomingites has absolutely changed how I see things and how I'm going to see and do things in the future. And I'm going to bring that back with me to the various boards and people that I interact with, and it's going to be completely for the better. And so I want to thank all of you that showed up here to give your perspectives, to show me how you see things. Thank you.
Much better said than I could paraphrase him.
All right, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Cynthia Blankenship. I'm a geologist. I'm on the board of Silicon Couloir. And I facilitated the coyotes along with Dean. Dean, are you here? There he is, hiding in the back there. So I was really encouraged by our discussions. I thought they were, once we kind of got to know each other a little bit, I thought they were pretty open, in some cases vulnerable. And we really coalesced as a pack. And I say that not only because we were the coyotes, but we had, this is no joke, we had Chelsea Wolf and Christine Fox in our pack. So we are truly the canines. And I would say that most people, we reflected on a lot of the themes that we talked about today, that all the speakers talked about, and there was a lot of energy in the group. And however, I think most people's takeaways and commitments were fairly personal, some things that they're going to do in their own life or their work. But there were some themes that came out at the end. One of them, just two. One of them was finding purpose, but then pursuing that very mindfully. And the second was the importance of community. And I know we've heard that before, but community for the happiness that it brings and for solving problems collectively with all sorts of different perspectives. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Tom Thorsheim, and I was really moved by everybody's vulnerability in our group. We had a great diversity of age. One of the themes that came out was servant leadership and the importance of finding purpose before driving business decisions. Also, it's not important, you don't need to have the answers. It's okay to be not knowing. Not knowing is not a fireable offense. I think that was Howard Bayer's word for it. That respect, or lack of respect for others rather, is what would lead to somebody not driving a successful business or being a good person in life. We also talked some about how to increase diversity in this community here, maybe ways of increasing grants or other opportunities, further outreach for folks. I was also very inspired, both in our group and also in the larger group setting, with the wisdom of the younger folks here. And in our group in particular, one of the youngest people was willing to push back and share diverse ideas that were different than everybody else in the group, which I found very inspiring. Also getting outside of one's comfort zone And, I think that was a case in point within our group, people saying things that were not the popular opinion. So very inspiring group. And thanks to all the Beavers that were in the group.
Hello, my name is Nikki, and I am representing the Bison Group. Yeah. And when we meet again in early October, every Bison will have done their own personal mission statement and identified their core values, and have done so using the systems mapping exercise that we learned from Layla. We also had some Bison that are already doing daily breath boxes, right? Box breathing. Some of them doing it 20 minutes per day, another doing it 3 minutes. So the others of us are going to start to do that, maybe not 20 minutes, but starting out slowly, baby steps, and doing that regularly. Those Bisons who are doing teams and leading teams right now, redefining profitability and what that means more than just revenue and bottom line. There was a mindfulness around the circular economy and how we can impact that through things like not picking up a bag at a conference for swag. Those Bisons that have an impact on old bills. What kind of swag are we doing, and how much are we putting out there as waste? And those that are impacting education either as a parent or on boards or as educators themselves. How are we teaching our children? Are we teaching them just facts, or are we teaching them how to think about problems and how to solve problems, and introducing AI in a thoughtful, intentional way as they are children? Resources was a question actually Sue brought up, and one of the resources that our group would love is to continue this throughout the year. So if there are ways to bring these back to teams inside of our organizations through facilitation or small group exercises, our Bison group would love to see that. Thank you.
And hi everyone, I'm Mike Fry. I am a portfolio manager at First Western Trust, and I, along with Brian Kujawski, co-led the Grizzly Bear group. So we actually had a really great diverse group, both in terms of age and location, spanning to some of the Michigan folk. And it just was a really great opportunity for a lot of introspection, especially to catch up from all the speakers from last night. The one big thing that stood out this morning was the idea of protecting ideas, the Frappuccino story, kind of nurturing them until they can kind of take on a mind of their own and run. So a lot of people are going to take that back with them, and also the idea of allowing the employees to choose the broom, I think was a really powerful statement for people to use in their own daily lives. So, and then for Vivian, the gifting knowledge, it's almost sad that it's a novel concept to a lot of us. I think that everyone is so protective of what they have, and so the idea that you could share this with the world is just was really powerful for us too. So, anything else to add?
Yeah, Michael was our main spokesperson, so thank you, Michael. My name's Brian, and one of the things that we talked about that we as men particularly have egos that we need to be very wary of, and we laughed about that, and that's why and prostates too, with two things we both don't need. But that's why I let Michael handle all of this, because I've read a lot of books about the ego, that it's not important. But I wanted to just add to a couple of things. Michael did a great job facilitating, and I learned a lot from him. We talked about community as being such a critical thing. Thank you, Sean, for articulating that as well as you did, and a lot of your other content. And that resonated with me personally about the correlation between community and people in your life, and proximity to good people and happiness, and that really struck a chord with me, and our group to some, I think as well. We talked about, actually Michael talked about, he had some great insights in our group, and I think really kicked off good dialogue with many of them. One of the things he said was just really defining, and I know it was spoken about in the presentations, but defining who we are, our mission, what that really means before we go out into the world and try to do whatever we do. And I think we overlook that, and I think our group really resonated with that. So Michael, thank you for bringing that up. And then one other thing that we talked about that I think came up, it bubbled up after a lot of the presentations, and during both of our sessions with the grizzly bears was the importance of breathing. And we both play golf, and we talk about breathing on the golf course. The proverbial stepping on the tee when you need to breathe and stripe it down the fairway, but that transfers in life in so many ways, where breath and that calm that it brings us, and that focus, and also all of the great repercussions, it takes us out of our head for a moment, and allows us to do those things, and also keeps us calm when we become angry. If we can just breathe for a moment before we respond, and maybe if somebody's laying on the horn on the road to you, to reading an email that upsets you, take a bit of time to breathe, maybe a few hours, and then react. So there was a lot of great stuff, and we're really grateful. So thank you all, and thank the speakers. The speakers were excellent, and all of the programs. Thanks.
I'm Jeff Moore. I am a leadership coach. Brian, I want to tell you that breathing thing doesn't work for me in golf. So we are the Mustangs, and our herd very much thinned out. We have Nicholas remaining as our lone. Gail and I were co-leaders. He's remaining as our lone Mustang. But in the first meeting, we came up with some good stuff. The goal was to create a circular economy. And one of the first things noticed was that there was the word children on one corner, the word future on another corner, and legacy on another corner. And we sort of agreed that this had to be done for them. And we talked about creating a set of values, creating awareness around the importance of this, and then advocacy, and then that it would take leadership. And leadership is not a science, it's an art form. And we talked about the importance in leadership of building the kinds of relationships where people in the group could deal with competing ideas. That's what leaders do, build the kind of relationships where you can hold two opposing thoughts at the same time and come up with something for the greater good. And we were all very impressed with the high school student who spoke. I don't know if he's still here. And so to circle back to that, we really felt that this is crucial for our future and for our young people. And those of us from the older generations need to start thinking about that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angelo Kalafidis. I facilitated the Trout group. Ours was a very diverse group from location and culture and background. And we were discussing that it was great to have some wise speakers with the great big picture, and then other speakers with some great tools. And then we went, well, what do we do with all of that? And part of it was, we go, cool, we're going to leave and go into our own world now, and most of the team's gone. So what do we do with this? And so what we've agreed is we're going to get together, which is one of the outcomes that we said. We said, then what do we do with it? Because some people said, I don't know what to do with this. And others said, well, I can use this. Again, I'm not sure what the application. So part of where the outcome for us out of all of this is to move forward with it and continue with it. So as a group, we're going to work out what we do. And it's quite interesting about where do we want to be? Not all sure. How are we going to do it? Not really sure. What are we going to do? We're going to work together to try and work that out. And each of our different perspectives gave us that. I think that's one of the crucial outcomes that we got out of this whole session. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz Ann Eisen, and Rick Gordon and I facilitated the ELK group. And I would like to say that what Cynthia said for the Coyotes resonated for us Elks, and we already have our next meeting scheduled. We each have takeaways, and we're going to look forward to continuing to support each other in bringing this back to our communities.
I guess it's just two words from our group: individual and community. People did a lot of personal sharing, but we felt supported and collective. And I just want to, and the other thing, people felt so valuing of the time to process. I just want to encourage that time we had together. I think was super meaningful to sense making and constructive meaning making for us. And I think we really appreciate that, and want to thank you guys for scheduling that in.
Hello, I'm Liza Millett, and I'm on the board of Silicon Couloir. And I was working with Michael Edwards, and we were the Ospreys. And we just wanted to share our takeaways in the hopes maybe they would inspire your groups as well. So one of our takeaways was to discuss and also reward in our organizations and our families the concept of servant leadership. One was to commit to coming next year and each bringing 2 friends. And then one idea that came up in the group was if the conference could have a third day that was optional of a community service project or projects that could demonstrate servant leadership, that would be most welcome.
After the long line of animals come the dragonflies. We are very proud to represent the invertebrates, often overlooked and underappreciated. I'm not saying that we have been overlooked and underappreciated, but we sort of had an invertebrate theme. I'm Shannon Chuptrine, Executive Director of the Riverwind Foundation. I'll let my co-facilitator introduce herself, and then one of our Dragonfly team members, who is an invertebrate expert, is going to wrap it up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Caroline Croft Este, and I'm a co-founder of Vertical Harvest Farms. We talked a lot today about community and how we can show up in community. We have scheduled our Dragonfly meeting for the 1st of November, the first week of November, and we're going to all share back how we maybe paid it forward in community or shared it forward in community.
Hi, I'm Sarah Carrico, and I'm a researcher working right out of the Grand Teton National Park right now at the research station. And the thing that I'm focused on is how do we better care for our interdependence, thinking about ecological and societal systems together, and how do we move differently together to better care for the web of life. And the perhaps unexpected entry point to my work is the beauty and wonder of spiders. And they're apex predators of the largest group of animals actually living in the GYE, which are invertebrates. But they're often feared and misunderstood. Spiders are kind of like the grizzly bears and the wolves. And one of the spiders that I was thinking about when our group was talking about, how to take some of these great insights and tools that we had from the conference and bridge them out. And I was thinking of this spider called Hyptiodes. And it uses its body as a bridge. It spins a pie-shaped web with only 4 radii, and it holds that web under tension and then releases that web. And so it had us thinking, how can we, in our spheres of influence, in our lives, be that bridge and take ideas from here out into the world? And we talked about what tangled times these are, and recent research on tangle webs, which are created by Theridiid spiders in the Theridiid family, and one of those who you might know is the black widow. They found that those webs actually allow the spiders to hoist prey 50 times their own mass, which has me thinking about what tremendous opportunity we have in these tangled times. So I wanted to thank the organizers and my group for being part of all of this.
Thank you.
I'm just going to go in the back room and cry now. So that was beautiful, Sarah. Thank you. That was incredible. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you all for coming. We will follow up with an email with information on where we'll divide up all the sessions. They'll be posted on YouTube. There's a survey going around that's also digital. You can find it on your confirmation email. There's QR codes around, et cetera. Please do give us some input. We really appreciate that and need it. And there's an opportunity for you to give some significant input, not just like, yes, did you have fun? Was the food good? Lynn, do you want to say anything else? Okay. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to the volunteers. Thank you to the sound crew. Thank you all for showing up, being vulnerable, and with courage. I personally am so optimistic about the future of humanity. So I try not to go down the rabbit hole of, I've got a 22-year-old daughter who reminds me constantly of the other side, but you all give me the utmost hope, and I appreciate you all being here, and we'll see you upstairs. Thanks.
Thank you for all that hard work.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. You're welcome.
That's fantastic.
Appreciate
Really enjoyed it.